Not able to switch any power modes or anything, change anything on the units. Whenever you think of an electric bike, you might think it makes no noise. Starks are a little bit different. They have a fan back up here. Most electric bikes don't have a radiator. They actually have a little heat sink that goes right up here. And I'm sure y'all seen it on Surons, Telarias, all that good stuff. For those who don't know what I was referencing, is this. But now I'm gonna show you the whine. This whine sound. Oh, I got rid of a squirrel. Fan comes on. That's what it's on. Where I typically ride is mostly deeper sand, and I've noticed that it does drain the battery faster, like in this video. But I will consistently get around 40 miles on a fully charged, which this was. And I would get around 2 to 2.5 hours of ride time. Now, in those 2 hours, I did end up going onto the motocross track that they had there. It was a harder pack clay, and I went on there for a good bit with one of my friends. And it did not eat up hardly any battery. We were on there for a good bit. It barely ate it up. But then whenever I was in the woods, it did eat it up pretty good. Until we found these really tight trails that was a harder clay, but they were very, very tight. It did not eat up the battery hardly any. But I did notice towards the end of the day, I got down to 10%. And it turned on some type of like turtle mode, which limited the power and definitely made it less responsive. But I will say, after riding some of the races, going on a harder pack, you can get over 50 miles of range. It definitely does depend on the conditions, like sand, the hills, mud definitely takes a lot of range out. But it also will depend on your riding style and everything else like that, you know, your weight. But you can try to extend that with the power settings. I am not able to do that. I'm gonna let this video play for a little bit to let you see what the terrain was looking like. So, the old charging ports used to be right up here, but they changed it and put them right here. And the only problem with this I have, I'll put it up on the screen. But now onto the charger. You got your 120, and then you got your 220. That can be used to fast charge. Now, using 220, you can get to 100% charge by 2 hours, they say, they claim. I have not tried that. I just put it on 120, and that's what I use. I'll put it on slow charge, and it gets to about roughly 100% by the time I get ready to ride. Now, once you get it plugged in, you gotta make sure that the bike is actually on. I made that mistake many times. I'm gonna go eat and leave this. I'll put up how much. Now, it has been about, I'll put up how long it's been, but you can see it is at 100%, and it took. Now, if you do click this button right here, fan comes on. That's what it's like. Alright, so the Stark EX weighs about 262 pounds. Now, that is more than your average 250 weighing 242 and your 450 weighing 256. It does feel much lighter. I'm guessing with that constant weight while you're riding it, you don't really feel it as much. But so, now I will say, compared to riding other bikes like the Talaria or Suron, just other electric bikes in general, on jumps or in the air, they feel very front heavy. I significantly have noticed that the front of the bikes are heavier. I'm assuming that's because the battery and everything being up front. I will say Stark did a great job of distributing the weight throughout the bike. You don't ever really notice it on that bike. It just feels very balanced and controlled. And it does in mud with the weight. It really helps with the handling. It just plows through it. I'll put up a video of just mud. I mean, it does definitely depend on your riding experience. I'm not the best, but I will say it definitely went through it a lot better than some other bikes. I was having trouble though. Now, parts are very limited. Really the only thing you can get right now off of Rocky Mountain and stuff is like tires, rims, a new chain. This is actually not an O-ring chain, which is very surprising coming from factory like that. I mean, some actually good bark busters, you know, and then other just little replacement parts, you know, brake pads, foot pegs, but everything else, like the motor, the battery, you gotta go straight through Start. You can't just go and buy a regular Android phone put in there. I don't understand these bars because they are routed inside the bars. So I don't know about switching the bars out. I don't know if you have to go straight with more Start stuff or what. And with gas, I mean, you could just rebuild the whole motor from like Rocky Mountain, say. Start, you got to go directly through Start to get any of this. They do offer a 2-year warranty for everything, pretty much. I know battery. I'm not too sure about other components. Yeah, it might include other components, but it's cool. They can remotely scan your Stark and see what the problem is. Parts are just very limited right now for this bike. Unlike other bikes, it's just so new that there's not many parts that are offered for it. Now, this is going to be my 5 pros and cons of the Stark. So I'm going to do 5 pros and 5 cons. The first pro is there's super smooth power delivery, and you get a pretty good amount of torque out of it. I mean, if you've ridden an electric bike, you know what to expect. It's also really quiet. You know, it's good for riding on trails near like neighborhoods and stuff, where like gas bikes would get you kicked out pretty fast around here. Best part is you can really ride on the property line with this one. They won't even know you're there. The range is pretty good. They claim that it's 20% more than the MX version, which I'm not too sure how much that is compared to the EX, because I've not even ridden the MX. Getting 40 miles out of it in sand, I would imagine that the MX would not do as good in that. That's pretty good there. They offer a fast charging. You're back out on the track 100% in under 2 hours if you have access to that 220. Also, last thing, there's barely any maintenance. I mean, there's no clutch, no gas. I mean, you just charge it up, ride it, gets muddy, just hose it down. You don't gotta, and then you have to get in all of those crevices that the mud likes to get into. That's a pain in itself. There's just barely any maintenance. Now for the cons. So, the first con is, it is heavier than other bikes, but you really actually don't feel the heaviness. The only time you actually do is, especially whenever you're picking it up after you fall, that is where you will feel it. The parts are pretty limited. Pretty much everything comes directly from Stark. So if something breaks, you're gonna be expecting a wait, unless it's a wear item. But other parts will be coming from Stark. There is also no quick battery swap. They say, you can swap a battery within 5 minutes, but that's a lot just to do all that. I mean, I wouldn't advise it. I'd rather just wait the 2 hours. The fan noise sometimes gets pretty loud and is very noticeable. But as soon as you come to a stop, actually, it goes away. Kind of interesting how that works. And last thing is, for the price, yeah, it's a little pricey. The upfront cost is a whole lot more. By the time you buy a 250, put all upgrades on it that you need for a race, you're roughly around the same area, in terms of price. But yeah, that kind of wraps up my pros and cons. Here, I'll show it. It did end up damaging this little piece of carbon right here, right there, and it damaged this spec right up here. That'll be right there, and it